All right, welcome to the Building Web3 podcast. This is your host, Jax Dwyer. I'm here with my good friend, Brent. He is building an incredible company. Hey, would you give us just a brief introduction to yourself and how you entered the Web3 space?
Always been in SEO, digital marketing, and was part of the founding team of Chewy.com. Worked half my career on the agency side, the other half on the in-house side, brands like BPI Sports, Chewy, JetSmarter. Spent a lot of time in South Florida. Really gave my heart and soul to digital marketing. It's a really interesting time to be a Web3 marketer right now, watching everything that's going on with Google and AI right now. So it's the last bull cycle was super into Web3 and Web3 marketing, but I couldn't quite make the leap at that time. I've since made the leap. So yes.
Yeah, so actually, let's touch on that because that was such an interesting point. What do you think is the big challenge for Web3 marketers with these like Google and AI advancements?
I think the biggest challenge is looking at taking parallels from Web 2 and applying what we've learned at the foundational level within Web 2 into Web 3. There's a builder first mentality, and it seems like a lot of stepping in, I guess having the luxury of stepping in last cycle, where I could step in and say, it's odd that a lot of these claiming portals don't have like an admin view. It's odd that I can't switch MetaMask in this app. I have to go into MetaMask, switch it, go back to, and a lot of these, we just hurry up and get to final product. We get to product, get to product. And looking at it from a different lens now, having more time to do it, just understanding, there's best practices in place, there's timelines and different project phases from Web 2 that I think will really have positive impact on Web 3. So that's the biggest thing, I guess, looking at how I can contribute is just really saying like product first means we're looking at the UX and design for 6 months, guys. I know you need an airdrop right now, but yeah.
Yeah, it is a very interesting space. So what was ultimately your come to crypto moment? What actually brought you into the Web3 space full time?
So looking at e-commerce, having quite, I'd say 6 to 8 years, almost exclusively in e-commerce through pet food and sports supplements. That's really where, I had an online retail store. It was doing all right. But between shipping costs, payment processors, warehousing costs, it got to the point where we were hitting goals, but at the end of the day, it's like we're working hard to break even. So just really thinking like I came from a technology background when Linux, there was all kinds of different distributions, like which one's going to win. And that was really fun for me back in the early internet. But looking at, everything Shopify was able to do, and here we go. There's a product. It's not just a product, it's a technology and no more payment processing fees. And so that turned me on to Bankless, and Bankless turned me on to like ETH is money type of mentality. Because I just didn't see how digital currency could have mass appeal, yet such volatility. So really getting through that part of it for me and understanding ETH is money, stable coins are safe. That was for me like, okay, let's go all in. Let's run payroll this way. Everything, yes, we can do on blockchain. Let's do it.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing. So give me an overview of your project currently and what its mission is.
With YakDAO, DAOs really were one of the first things I looked heavily into, being kind of a policy and procedures person in the agency space. Agencies are chaotic. You're basically billing human output. Time cards get weird. So for me, it's process around this always meant people get to go home at 5 p.m. and they're not working on weekends and nights. It meant a lot to me. So when I started looking at DAOs, I was like, wow, this is great. And fast forward, 3 or 4 years now, and we're looking at Depin and seeing like Uber competitors without humans. And I think, what we're going to be able to do with DAOs is phenomenal. Actually building one out, the biggest thing is just looking at legalities and watching laws unfold, as you're building in a DAO. It's a little frustrating, but looking at, what we can do now with Wyoming's pushing some new legislation out where hybrid LLC models come into play. That's a big part of this, because with YakDAO, essentially what we're doing is a big land acquisition play. We're looking at, we kind of have this ethos of what land is attractive to the DAO. So we've seen it as one of the most stable asset class with real estate investment trusts and private equity firms. So prior to this, we built and sold a campground booking software called Camp Native. We ended up working really closely with a lot of campgrounds across the United States. Went out and did drone photography and videos and created the largest directory. And went on to sell that, kind of jump into YakDAO. And, we tried to go fractionalization first, because how cool would it be if, as a DAO, you could buy an eighth of a dome and get an eighth of the yield from booking that out? It's a super clean model. Unfortunately, we weren't comfortable doing it that way. So what we ended up doing is going to the buyback model, where short-term rental revenues, we're saying 30%, 30% of occupancy revenue is going to token buybacks and burns. So we've seen a couple of other people in the space. I know Outside Magazine also stood up an NFT collection with YakDAO, who purchased a golf course. I know a lot of people know about YakDAO. They had Steph Curry, some notable people involved. But yeah, looking at, YakDAO through the bear market, we sold enough NFTs to purchase a property outside of Asheville, North Carolina. Given our background, we have been through a lot of startups, so we understood in year one during the bear market, let's make this generate revenue. So we got the property, the founders did, with 5 Bell tent units, and we had, I think, by fall of the year, we purchased it, all 5 units booked out. So we're post revenue right now. We're going through V2. We went through the launch pads and TGE. Now we're kind of upgrading. So projections for the property that we already purchased, well, full dome build outs are at 1.5 million annual. So what we want to do is hold a quality standard with YakDAO and look at how do we sustainably put revenue behind land. And short-term rental couldn't have been better timing. We just saw with the Memorial Day weekend in the U.S., top news stories is the explosive growth of glamping and the popularity of staycations. So we feel like we are in a good place to do it, having kind of the NFT collection behind us in a way where it's very usable. The tokenomics are very scalable, simplistic, but very usable, very scalable. So we're excited for our property renovation V2. Right now, we have a lot going on. We have septic going into the property right now. Electric dome sites are being finalized. The 3 final domes were just shipped from Colorado last week. But yeah, hopefully we're open with the new domes next month.
Very exciting. And I always love this podcast to be, accessible to beginners all the way up to the advanced level. So let's first, before we go deeper into the project, let's talk about what is a DAO at its very core root.
Sure. So a DAO is decentralized autonomous organization. The way that I think about DAOs is, what if you had a business and you got really, really mad and typed in rage quit, and you got to take home everything that you were promised and you don't have to talk to anybody again. So DAOs essentially let you rage quit. DAOs do much more than that. Essentially, they are a voting mechanism to alleviate the need for human consensus to happen in a room together. The premise is really bake in processes that can be repeated and let the machines do the work. So that's essentially, I think, the idea of a DAO. Where we're seeing it on our side is kind of more of the hybrid model. Like a good example of why we can't be always a DAO in the US is because DAOs can't hold real estate assets. So that's where me saying, Wyoming coming forward with some new legislation. Wyoming said you can be a DAO and you can also be an LLC. So the government doesn't know quite what to do with DAOs. They're pretty, I would say, disruptive in the sense where if people learn how to deploy DAOs, you can scratch your head and think, well, how many people need to work at Uber? Really, how many? Because we saw places like Uniswap with 5 headcount get as large as they did. So there's definitely some really strong use cases for DAOs. I think we'll see a lot more of that, especially on the utility government side of things.
Yeah, DAOs are a very interesting case. And how do your specific DAO deal with kind of the consensus mechanism? Do you guys issue a governance token or?
No, so the Jax token itself will act as more of a governance token. Since we're reinvesting so much into the Jax token through these buybacks, in our perfect world, we have 50, 100 different Jax properties across the US and international. And Jax price is almost a burden for us to buy it back just because it's doing well. Properties are growing, occupancy is high, buybacks are high. So, that's something that, the DAO, where the DAO really comes into play is saying, do we need to make adjustments? So if inflation or there's country level sanctions that come down, do we need to adjust something? Do we need to put 2 more points in for buybacks? Can we do that? Things like that. But really, I've been a part of a lot of DAOs and seeing like crap, I have to show up to another vote. It's really not what we're about at all. It's really like, it started as a small group. It's continued to be that small group mentality, and it's just like operating with transparency. The biggest thing that people want to vote on and have a say on is what's the next property. That's where I've seen everybody come together. I've seen kind of fight, almost like fighting, like, no, we can't do this. We can't do California, like that sort of stuff. So that's where DAOs for me was probably the most exciting, because you think about, even if approvals happened on the property sourcing, so it's saying like, okay, the funds are in treasury. If funds hit X amount of dollars, deploy to make an offer on property. So we could actually have due diligence automated within the DAO to say it has to meet these 36 requirements. So there's a lot I want to do with the DAO, and I think there's a lot we can do to help RWA as a whole, the real world assets, just by looking at what's not here that could be here, what's something we can build but would be helpful to somebody else in the future. Making that open source and making sure that people know about it.
Yeah, it's incredibly interesting, the structure of DAOs and how all that works. I'm definitely going to do a lot more episodes on that. So let's talk a little bit about the the starting of this project? Because there was an NFT sale, and then was the NFT sale in order to raise funds to buy the first property, or was the NFT sale part of the yeah? How did the NFT sale fit in?
Yeah, we got together. I guess initially we were brought on by Ferrum, the Ferrum Group. So they kind of acted as our advisors. They did some early introductions. One of the first people I introduced us to was an illustrator. We were going to go through a pre-sale, but we decided let's do it as NFT collection. So we actually did NFT collection as our first raise, and that's where it was nice. We've just worked with a really good team. When I say we stood it up and minted to the point where we could purchase the property. And then we took the minting site down. And the main reason for that was because we achieved our goal. Why allow more supply without more demand in flux? So brand recognition, brand awareness, things like that. And I really want people to pay attention to the NFTs as well. Just, I mean, even down to the metadata, it's just, I haven't seen anything like it. So we put a lot of our early efforts in just standing that NFT collection up and then sourcing properties with the DAO members. But yeah, through three different tiers, then the Mauna Kea tier is the highest tier within the collection. So those are more of, I would say people you'd see participating in a PE fund. 25% of people that participated in this round were not, they were basically no coiners. Like they didn't trade crypto, they didn't intend to trade crypto. So 25% of the amount we raised during this raise was from non-crypto people getting a weird, wacky Yak NFT in their wallet, which is pretty cool.
And what do you think attracted these no coiners to this specific project if they never really they weren't crypto natives?
It's definitely the network, just coming out of Camp Native, being around the industry of outdoor recreational. So it's just like pre-COVID, during COVID, and post-COVID, the industry just went berserk. Like it was already going crazy, and then with quarantining, RV recreational vehicle rental companies popped up, and pretty soon, people I never expected to travel had RVs and were bringing their small kids with them. So it's just kind of a movement in the U.S. here where people are traveling and staying, maybe in places like South Dakota or states that had little lax laws on campgrounds being open. So with Camp Native, we saw a lot of bookings, like lower end bookings in state parkland, which was free to book at, to people going to more of like a hip camp where it's more California glamping. And that's really where we saw like the average ticket of what a family spends, or a couple or an individual, kind of increase over time, to seeing hip camp being viewed as this, boy, that's only for like, maybe 3% of travelers, where it's in a glamping unit, to now we see that flip to now the majority of people are looking at, we want to stay in something with electricity. So that's, that we even saw that when we opened with the bell tents. No electricity last year was, I think it was like 80% of all bookings were within a 120-mile radius. So people just kind of, I think, work from home, just wanting to get out and experience nature and get out of the house.
Yeah, and if anyone's unfamiliar with the term glamping, it's essentially just glamorous camping, where you might have a tent with electricity, it might have a beautiful view, it might be like a dome that you can see the entire sky from. So just an upgraded form of camping. And then what made you essentially select the glamping areas? You saw really good returns, you were working on that software, or?
A couple of different factors. We have some core tenants with our property management, property build out, white paper side of things. So on that side of things, we have some qualifying factors such as tourism data, looking at the DAO needs to acquire properties that have active outdoor amenities. So ski hills, ocean, with Brevard, it's one of the highest traffic area from fly fishing in the East Coast and mountain biking. So that kind of left it open for us, saying we're not going to take it down because people do go to this area for outdoor purposes. And that's important to us because both founders came through like this digital life where post high school it was all monitors, and for us kind of meeting through Camp Native, I've lost 85 pounds since I started working with the guy. I mean, he brought me up mountains. He got me lost on like hiking Telluride up into a ski sleep place, just like things I thought I'd never do again in life. And this is really what this brand is about for us. It's just getting people outside again. And that's a big part of it. So with Brevard, it was like, can we get kids and people booking through fly fishing, through mountain biking, through there's a lot of summer camps there for families as well, but also close to the airport. I think it's closer to the Asheville airport than downtown Asheville is. So yeah, just checked all the boxes for us, and really it was, at that point it was which properties are we not saying no to, and that one came to us first, where it was like, yeah, we can't say no. So
Yeah, it's very interesting to hear the selection criteria. And let's talk a little bit about, because people might be wondering, they're like, wow, this feels very in the real world. Like, what is the use case of bringing this stuff onto the blockchain?
that's been tricky, specifically because BlackRock announced tokenization right around the time we pushed out our Jax token. So BlackRock saying tokenization of everything, $16 trillion. And, we're running to press saying, hey, we have a quarter, 22 acre property here. And BlackRock saying 16 trillion. So we kind of felt like, the category RWA existed to us when we started building this. And, we thought, well, we have a real world asset. It's going to get press and pick up. The thing is, unless you have liquidity behind it, meaning it's liquid, you can sell it right now. You can sell it on the chain right now. It's not that appealing. So that's really where this whole, I'm kind of okay with the fact that we don't have anything as far as fractionalization of ownership on the dwellings, because it puts more emphasis on saying the DAO has to do well. If we're able to go 10 times as fast, we have actuals on the cost on build outs with property one. So looking at, what we'd like to see happen is the token does well. We start to see that through buybacks as we're taking on bookings on the first property here.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the token. So it acts as a governance token as well. So there's voting in the DAO. And then I think many people are familiar with, if they were a landlord, they might be getting consistent cash flows from the tenants. Are the Jax members entitled to essentially the returns, or it's the price appreciation of the asset is how they get the returns?
With the tokenomics are a little, we've had a lot of advisors work on our tokenomics. I think before we went through TGE, I think we're on version 22. So I'm having to pull it up right now just to kind of go through everything. But yeah, essentially right now, um, the so there's a crazy stat. I'm looking at like how many tokens are coming out right now. I think it was like 2022. The number was less than 5,000 total tokens, and it's like now it's over 5,000 coming out per day.
Yeah,
Um,
pump.fun is really on Solana is really exacerbating that issue.
it is, but it's also like, this people are they always say like, what's the cycle about? It's about memes.
Mm,
It's about RWAs, what NFTs. So this cycle, it's like, we've definitely seen restaking as a big thing, but
mm.
yeah, I would say with this cycle, um, it's really like I've seen so much activity with launch pads and pre-sales. It's insane. Even without pump.fun, just looking at like total pre-sales, whew, it's crazy. Um, yeah, so we went through launch pads, and I think a lot of people are like, where's the green candle every day? Where's the green candle every day? Deploy KOLs, um, marketing. And really, the beauty of our tokenomics is we had 4.3 million tokens released into circulation. Um, of that, with our early investors, we stood up staking pools. We locked 1.2 million of the 4.3 in staking pools within 48 hours. We had a sell tax on right away. So with our excess Yax tokens we took in through the sales tax, we gave them back to our early investors and holders through those staking pools. Um, so that was pretty nice to be able to do that. We do anticipate that buybacks are really the bread and butter of the token. So looking at getting those started as soon as let's see, June, yeah, as soon as June. So that's the primary signal. So pushing over 5 figures from the DAO into buybacks, no matter the token price. So just seeing that consistency, seeing that grow. What it allows us to do is to step back and say, look, country, look, state, you figure out your laws. You will come back then. And until then, we can purchase properties through LLCs and have legally binding documents where the DAO has unlimited use access to these properties across the US. So we do it this way, and we buy our own token.
Yeah, it's very interesting, especially hearing the version 22 of the tokenomics as well as the issues. So let's talk about some of the challenges you faced while building this project and how you work to overcome them.
Yeah, with my business partner, he's one of the most transparent people I've ever met. As somebody in the startup world, I'm sure that's a blessing and a curse at times, but somebody that he always tells the truth, and that knowing that's who I'm going into business with, it's really nice from a DAO perspective, and in this sense too, where working together with him, we've always done fundraising in Web2. So this is the first time we've ever done fundraising exclusively in Web3. But it doesn't change in the sense where he looks at every investor as an investor. So when he's speaking to our GC, he's saying we took bids on a bathhouse at 56,000. They're gone. Our next bid is at 77. I'm sorry. Just those conversations where we don't even have like internal conversations like, let's go get another bid. We could probably find somebody. He's just straight truth. So that's been really, really, really helpful in the sense that we avoid a lot of the conflict because he's just always there. Kind of, there's a problem. Here it is, everyone. And I think it's brought us all closer together. We've had members that have done introductions to subject matter experts, influencers, people that would be unattainable to us if they weren't around. So yeah, he's been, I'd say, the best. But if he wasn't there, I'd say communication would be top.
Communication being the most difficult in terms of managing multiple different marketing channels, like Instagram, Telegram, Discord, Twitter. In that sense, the communication.
Yeah, on that side, it's a little tough because like I've seen Web3 teams where they're reporting to stakeholders. I've seen stakeholders run it themselves. I've seen agencies report to. So I've kind of seen it all, and really what it comes down to is I think somebody that has the stakeholder trust being able to run that as quickly as possible. I mean, I've seen quotes for 258 content pieces in 30 days. 30 days, like two, and it's like, what's a product? Well, it doesn't matter. You just need that much content. So I think really like that kind of comes back to the earlier thing I was saying too, just like what can we learn from Web 2 and apply to Web 3? So for me, it's like having those conversations and looking at like, what do we want? Do we want to prove click-through rate exists on social? Because we could if we drop a link in. But yeah, that's been tough. I mean, honestly, nobody gives the same answer on that. Like, what's good? What do they want? It's like, if you can't command a raid of 1,000 people at your snap of fingers, then you don't have it yet.
Yeah, in terms of a community and audience. When I talk with many founders, they'll list, well, in the bear market, they talked about fundraising, but now it's marketing being the like primary challenge is what I hear from mostly everyone.
Yeah, it's I mean it's to the point where we've had, I'd say, 50x, if not 100x, the communication coming in from vendors versus potential buyers or community members. So like taking that cost on as a startup is it's good to know about. Like you're going to get spam. People are going to try and scam you. And you're going to have to stand up somebody that may just say, submit the form if you want to work with us all day.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you get just tons and tons of DMs about people wanting to work with you. So what would you say is the most common like pitch you receive? Like if somebody did want to work with you, what would you guys be open to hiring?
We're really not deviating too far from our focus, which like from our Web2 startup days is saying like get your ICP and don't lose sight. So with that's really we kind of go across a couple of different addressable markets, but our primary customer profile with YakDAO or member profile, I guess would be potentially young realtor or young landowner, somebody that sees the potential of what this could be and wants to help do it through YakDAO versus doing it alone. So that's really where we're building new products to help onboard non-crypto savvy people into crypto versus we need to spend on degens right now. Just because with the expansiveness of token growth, I don't think as an industry we've realized how many new tokens came to market in 2022. I think Web3 marketers have. I think KOLs have. But I don't think anyone else has. Maybe CoinMarketCap.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not in the Web3 space, it's really tough to understand how much is going on, especially in the meme sphere. But it seems like every project will be launching a token. I think there's a little bit of a downside to it because you come from the Web2 startup land. Imagine if everyone's just started getting liquidity like 3 days after working in a startup. Usually you had these giant unlock events where you went public or you were acquired and there were still these like large cliffs. There's a lot of ADD in the crypto space. And I wonder how it is, or I guess I talked to all these founders, how it is managing employees when they have these TG events and so many tokens are going to the employees. And it's like, I don't really feel like working anymore. I've got a lot of money.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty insane. Even even time from Launchpad to Launchpad communication ending, and just seeing like new projects coming on, piggybacking on, and you realize, ooh, this is not slowing down. It's not.
No, no. If anything, acceleration, especially with the bull market. So let's talk a little bit about launch pads, because this is a topic that's come up on previous podcasts, but I think it's always good to revisit.
Yeah, yeah, we definitely had we had a good experience. We went through TrustSwap, DuckDAO, NeoLaunch, and TokenFi. Each a little bit different. Different in the sense of KYC, different in the sense of terms, different in the sense of portals, different in the sense of membership requirements. So it was interesting. I really thought everyone was like, "Oh, you're going to TrustSwap. Get the CDNs ready. Your site's going down." And it was funny. I remember watching, like, when that went up, I remember watching real time on analytics. And it was like, announcement, and it was like 48 people on your website. It was like, whoa, I'm sure it'll be a lot more than that. And it was like 52. But yeah, that was so that was my first, like, whoa. We oversubscribed by quite a bit, 1,200%. We fully subscribed across all four. TokenFi was awesome. Just working with Beta Viking and like the Floki team, everything they do. Oh yeah, I mean, just watching, like, being the first one on that and watching the platform, kind of knowing like, hey, this was probably in a staging environment last night, and I might be the first one to see it. They're fixing things on the fly. It still works better than anything else that we're using. It's just phenomenal. Like their team, their UI, their design, their raids, their army is it's pretty awesome. So that was really fun to watch. And knowing, like Beta Viking coming around afterwards to talk about CMC profile data and CoinGecko, because he wants to have TokenFi Launchpad data complete. Just knowing how much care goes into that, versus, hey, you're another project. We raised, you got your funds. See you later. Yeah.
Yeah, the launch pads are always very interesting. So do you recommend that most founders join a launch pad?
Yeah, I would say, if there's anything I would say to do differently than what we did, is to look at, like, if we would have timed our TGE with our first buybacks, I think we would have, since that is so core to buy sell data, if we're pushing in our own buy data and we know we're not going to do it for a month after TGE, why not TGE right when that's going to happen? So, I know there's like a lot of kind of mixed headspace on TGE dates. Like, doesn't matter, or do I need to plan in advance for marketing? If so, how much? But at the end of the day, it's really, I think it's most important to do what the business can handle, and looking at, what do you want? What's your product? If your product is the token, just be aware that it's a lot of work. And I've seen some budgets to promote tokens, like I would say a healthy token, where the token is more of the product. And yeah, it's well into 6 figures per month, where you're looking at KOL support and ongoing content, things like that, community management. So, knowing, like, yes, you can TGE, yes, you can get through launch pads, but your runway runs out very quickly unless you do have a sticking point And that's something that you can't really plan for if you're a meme with no utility.
Yeah, it's marketing and the surprising cost behind that, especially from the content, the KOL partnerships. Do you find that one is more effective than the other? That maybe KOL partnerships are more effective than newsletter ads, or is there something you found that's been particularly effective?
Um, I guess we've found the most effective would be I'd say more micro influencers that are more like subject matter focused versus like tier one KOLs or KOLs in general. Um, and then as far as other acquisition sources, so I'm documenting that as a DAO. I'll release that quarterly. So just looking at like across crypto ad networks, PR, paid placement through deck screeners, um, of contextual ads, email, organic. But yeah, I'm going to make all that data public. Um, as soon as I started deploying funds on marketing in this space, I just knew I had to do that for the industry.
Yeah, I'll be excited to read it. I always find this to be incredibly interesting area as to where can you effectively spend marketing dollars, and who do you find are really good at deploying that specific capital. So I think once you do start releasing that will be very crucial for the industry. So let's talk a little bit about the project, because that's going to be very important in bringing about the wider adoption of Web3 technologies. But how do you see YakDAO bringing that future, that Web3 future that we all want?
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's something like with businesses, I've always had out of the business model in mind, and then it's okay. Focus on acquisition, focus on retention. I'll never forget the two guys that started Chewy. They were 25 years old at the time I first met with them. And they told me the first day, they're like, Chewy's going to be a household brand name. It's like, sure it is. Sure it is. So, with me, it's, seeing that take place in front of me. It's just a matter of like 7 years that happened where everybody knew about Chewy. I see a lot of signals in society right now with real estate, with inflation, with commercial real estate, and with the change over the decades that I've felt myself. I mentioned earlier I lost like 85 pounds. So looking at in 1980s, 20% of the US workforce were sitting for 6 hours or more, and now it's over 80% of the workforce. So really, what we're looking to do, I think, checks a lot of boxes for a lot of people across different markets, because with land acquisition and sustainability being a focal point, what we're able to do is erect profit generating dwellings, the glamping units. The ones we're putting in Brevard are four season, so they have campfire, bathrooms, kitchen, so you can use them in the winter. But also looking at, and with that market alone, so that market has grown from 1.3 billion in the U.S. Over the last 4 years to over $7 billion. It's almost as big as RV travel in itself, but just glamping. So that's almost 7x in the last 4 years. Now fast forward to co-working in commercial space. So if we're able to be close to a body of water and still a metro area, our NFTs might start mattering a lot to people that want to work from nature. So these would be buildings we could put up. The footprint is very minimal. But looking at kind of having seasonal proof, putting a parking lot in and a couple of amenities is a very small footprint compared to a downtown co-working space. So land monetization, I think, is not something people have really talked about in an economical way. That's also good for the environment. But between signals on commercial real estate, inflation, just true ownership of assets too, I think YakDAO is able to touch a lot of total addressable markets, and have positive impact on everybody's day-to-day lives.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I'm I'm very curious to see how everything continues to grow for you guys. So could you give a little bit of the milestones and developments that your community and the community at large can be looking forward to?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was just on the property last week. We're doing a lot on the property. The whole show could probably be about that. So I'll just go through it real fast. We have we have 5 bell tents. We took all but 2 down, redoing the entire area with septic. We're going to do a bathhouse, but now we're doing glamping units with the bathrooms in the units. So it's pretty awesome. The community is pretty excited about that. Updating the driveway, wheelchair accessible ramps going in, and redoing the pavilion to facilitate some work from pods. So that'll be pretty neat as well. There's with that side, we have final building unit permits, which have been submitted as of Friday of last week. So we're hoping to hear back on those any day. Domes are on a truck from Colorado right now. So we are really close to reopening. On the digital side, we're building the basically Web2 fiat onboard membership program. So what we're doing is working with some fiat onboard companies, some vendors in the space that will allow purchase from dexes. And it's pretty cool. Our goal really is, not, like I said, not to kind of get top 100x moonshot articles, but to really get the people that want to invest, stay, but also bring value in the sense of, hey, we can build faster. We have properties in other countries. So with the digital build out side of it, we're really kind of boiling down. You can swipe a card, purchase your Yaks, and then blending the Web2 and Web3 data on the kind of more CRM side of the site. So looking at a universal portal, the universal portal, understanding the differences between token amounts, token tiers, NFTs, NFT tiers, purchase dates, additional things like stays and issuing promo codes for people to book and stay without talking to anybody. So that side of it is my wheelhouse. And with that, I think we're looking at probably 30 days to deploy. Major airdrop campaign coming out with that as well. And then really building in, we're calling it Yak XP, but experience points for doing things like spending time outside, like booking at our properties, like taking an experience. We'll be working and onboarding some local outfitters. So if you book with a local kayaker to go kayaking, you earn Yak XP. And they may put you from a K2 NFT to an Everest NFT if you get enough XP. So a lot going on that side as well. Haven't really debuted too much of that, so a little bit of alpha there.
Very cool. Yeah, some good alpha being shared. So we've got the physical world and we've got the digital world, and a lot of exciting things coming there. So finally, where can listeners learn more about your project? How can they get involved?
Yeah, it's fun because after next month, you can actually go to Asheville and type in glamping near me and find the campground. It's awesome. So we'd love for people to learn about us, hear about us that way. I go there, I don't want to leave. I just do not want to leave. I have 2 young kids. I go there and it's like sound of bullfrogs, going to bed, and it's just birds in the morning. Perfect. But yeah, so going to the campground is always awesome. Our website is yak.camp, yak.camp, or the YakDAO on Twitter. YakDAO, Yaks, you put it in. If you find a website selling Yaks, that's not us, but you'll find it if you keep scrolling.
Got it. Perfect. Well, I'll put all the links in the bio, and I just want to thank you for coming on here. And this is another episode of Building Web3.
Thanks, Jax. That's awesome.
All right. Talk soon.